European Union leaders are holding emergency summit talks to beef up their own military defenses and make sure Ukraine will still be properly protected as Europe faces the prospect of the US cutting it adrift. According to Associated Press Friedrich Merz, the likely next chancellor of Germany, and summit chair Antonio Costa discussed ways to fortify Europe's defenses on a short deadline on Thursday. Meanwhile, the 27-nation bloc was waking up to the news that French President Emmanuel Macron would confer with his EU counterparts about the possibility to use France's nuclear deterrent to protect the continent from Russian threats.
The new Prime Minister of Georgia.
Thank you.
Madam President,
Russian forces have planned Ecoside and intend to blow up all the dams along the Maly-Kalchik River in the Donetsk region. Petro Andriushenko, the head of the Center for Occupation Studies, reported the information. The plan is to blow up all the dams along the Maly-Kalchik River to fill the old Crimea reservoir, which has already significantly dried up. This decision is not only ineffective but also ecologically disastrous. It will lead to a radical shift in the natural balance, turning the adjacent areas of Maly-Kalchik into a desert. The river is not just part of the microclimate, it is the only water source for nourishing plants in this region, writes Andriushenko. According to sources, Russian forces also plan to drain or pump water out of the Pavlopol reservoir. Both decisions are aimed at temporarily solving the water supply problem in Mariupol, but their effectiveness is extremely limited. The first measure will provide water for a maximum of a week, and the second for up to a month. At the same time, these actions will not only fail to address the water shortage in the city but will also inevitably lead to a humanitarian catastrophe in Mariupol and irreversible ecological changes in the region. Given the scale and nature of the impact, these plans can be classified as a continuation of the policy of Ecoside, wrote Petro Andriushenko. It should be noted that Russian-controlled forces in Kherson Oblast have deliberately made it harder for civilians to evacuate the flood zone following the Russian destruction of the Kakhovka Dam in June 2023. According to an investigation by the Kyiv Independent, the Russian military interfered with the work of locals who were evacuating people from the flooded areas on their own. Their boats were confiscated, while the volunteers were threatened and forced to stop the efforts. In turn, the local rescue services, working under occupation, did not have enough resources for the evacuation, while the occupation authorities deliberately concealed the magnitude of the disaster. As a result of these actions, civilians on the occupied east bank of Kherson Oblast that could have been rescued have died. The evacuation of civilians fell on the shoulders of the locals, who organized and coordinated the rescue themselves, in particular, via a Telegram chat. Yet, Russian soldiers did not allow volunteers to enter all the flooded areas, and confiscated their boats under threat of punishment.
Two soldiers from Chechnya defected to Ukraine and handed over intelligence data to Russian occupation forces. The unique operation was carried out by the Ukrainian Defense Forces Military Counterintelligence, the SBU and the Sheikh Mansour Chechen Volunteer Battalion. TSN reports on the operation. One of the soldiers who went over to the Ukrainian side, Sayfullah al-Sultanov, told us what he feels about Russia. A Russian is a person I hate, an unfair, deceitful, vile, dirty, unwashed Russian. And this hatred has been going on for centuries. As long as Russia exists, evil is invincible, he emphasized. Al-Sultanov gave the security service of Ukraine data on the positions of the Russian Federation, the number of attack aircraft, the time and routes of offensive actions and other information. It is known that the man was a rifleman in the assault platoon of the 242nd Guards Company. He had made the decision to go over to the Ukrainian side a long time ago. My plan was to sign a contract and at the first opportunity go over to the side of Ukraine to fight against the Russians who killed my brothers. At the same time, another Chechen, 45-year-old Abdullah Malikov, stressed that this was not their war. He said that he was tricked into going to the police station at home, where he was held in a basement and tortured to sign a contract. They beat me until I lost consciousness and threw me back into the basement, the man recalled. When they finally got the documents signed by torture, the man was sent to the territory of Luhansk Oblast. He decided to go over to the Ukrainian side. First, he established contact with the Chechen battalion that defends Ukraine, and later with military counterintelligence. The Ukrainian side helped him overcome 1.5 kilometers of mined path. Another fighter also contacted the intelligence officers through the Sheikh Mansour volunteer battalion, whose fighters, also Chechens, have been defending Ukraine from Russian aggression for 10 years. When Sayfullah al-Sultanov received the order to storm the Russian invaders, he began a double game. Both soldiers successfully crossed over to the Ukrainian side. After that, they underwent numerous checks to prove that they were not enemy agents. In particular, they were tested with a lie detector. In August, it was reported that a Russian soldier threw a grenade into the headquarters where Russian invaders from the Storm Z unit were sleeping in order to defect to Ukraine. The Ukrainian side was then able to obtain valuable intelligence on the location, numbers and intentions of the enemy in a specific direction of the front.